We don't get to choose our time. Death is what gives life meaning. To know your days are numbered, your time is short.
Welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. Doctor Strange has become a major player in the MCU, but it seems like his 2016 solo movie is ancient history. No one's hailed Doctor Strange as the best MCU film ever, and in truth it isn't. But when the film came out, the overall reaction to the movie was pretty positive, and it did really well at the box office. And yet, 5 years later, the film's stunning visuals receive praise, but the movie itself is remembered as generic and nothing too special, sometimes ranked among the worst MCU movies. I don't think this movie is being appreciated the way it should be. It has its faults, but it's a unique, fascinating origin story with outstanding visuals, creative action, and a powerful message about life and purpose. And so, allow me to dive deep into Doctor Strange and explain why this movie is so underrated, and possibly convince fans to give this one another chance.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
But first, let's talk about some of the reasons why Doctor Strange might feel generic and unfavorable. Now, while underrated, the movie does have undeniable glaring problems. A lackluster villain, underdeveloped supporting characters, some poorly timed jokes, and the all too familiar MCU tropes that at times feel detrimental to movies that are trying to be different.
Try me, Beyonce. Come on, you've heard of her. She's a huge star, right?
The pacing of this film can also be a bit problematic. The first hour's exposition feels a bit sluggish, while the second half is rushed as the movie races from one action scene to the other, giving us very little time to breathe and take in the major revelations and implications of these characters. And I think most of these problems are due to the film's timid runtime, which is just barely 2 hours long, making it almost impossible to truly develop the film's dense themes and complex characters. So ultimately, the film's biggest enemy is time, which is fitting considering the movie's focus on time. Also, the folks in Carmartage just suck at security, like anyone can walk into the library and steal super dangerous books and Infinity Stones.
I am now the guardian of these books, so if a volume from this collection should be stolen again, I'd know it.
5 minutes later. A few moments later.
Pack your things. Get out of my building. You're fired!
There are also the obvious similarities between Strange and Iron Man, especially their origin stories. Also, Doctor Strange came out in a jam-packed year for superhero movies, being lost in between all the heavy hitters. And it was around the time that people started to complain about superhero fatigue. So I think Doctor Strange fell short of standing out as a truly special film in the eyes of the audience. And as a result, it was misremembered as a bad movie. Now, of course, it's all subjective. So with all that said, let's talk about the greatness of Doctor Strange.
Open your eyes.
So we will dive into all the amazing visuals, the creative action, and that perfect climax. And I might even prove to you that Caecilius wasn't such a terrible villain.
That's impossible!
But first, I want to start with the most underrated scene in this underrated movie. I'm talking about the surgery scene early in the film. On paper, this scene isn't really anything special compared to all the other awesome moments that we get later on. But this scene perfectly establishes the movie's main theme, time. As Strange begins the surgery, he's distracted by the ticking sounds of Dr. West's watch.
Dr. West, cover your watch.
Now on the surface, you can interpret this as nothing more than the annoying ticking sound distracting Strange. Now, just listen to the music and sounds during the scene. From this moment, all the sounds and the music in the background are all ticking.
Dr. West, what are you doing?
Rising in their intensity, symbolizing the race against time to save this man's life. Once Strange begins the most complex part of the surgery, all the sounds disappear. All but the ticking sound of the watch. A reminder that time is always there.
Dr. West, cover your watch.
So when the watch is covered, we are left with a consistent melody. If time stops for Stephen, then it's no longer a factor that can distract him. It's as if he takes control over time, performing miracles with his hands. It also foreshadows the way he defeats Dormammu. This is great sound editing, something that rarely plays a big role in the MCU. But this also ties into the movie's exploration of time and life. The true meaning of this scene isn't about freezing time, but it's about the precious moments of our lives. Time can become relative if we focus on enjoying each moment, prolonging time in our minds. As a surgeon, Dr. Strange assumes a type of control over time, being able to use his skills to prolong a patient's life, as if he's eluding time itself. And yet, time comes for us all.
We don't get to choose our time. Death is what gives life meaning. To know your days are numbered, your time is short. You'd think after all this time I'd be ready. But look at me, stretching one moment out into 1,000.
That's really powerful. Every mortal being races against time. We can never catch up, yet we still try. We feel it spill out of our hands like sand, aware that time is the end of us. As we grow older, we move closer and closer to our tragic finality.
All things age, all things die. Time is the true enemy of us all. Time kills everything.
But it doesn't have to be so depressing. Not if we accept that time is just part of our natural journey and allow ourselves to forget about our endless race against time, a race that we simply can't win because we're not meant to, and that's okay. Our limited time on this earth gives us the motivation to push forward, not waste away, live our lives, find purpose, find happiness, and maybe do some good from time to time.
But a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
I want to take a second to talk about mental health. Now, I have gone through some really dark times in my life, and I'm grateful that I had therapy to help me through them. Therapy can feel daunting if you've never done it before. How do you find a therapist? What kind should you see? Or maybe you live in a remote area like I used to. Well, Cerebral can help you. They're the sponsor of this video. Cerebral is a mental health platform that gives you access to online prescription medication management, counseling, and therapy. Cerebral can help you treat a variety of conditions, including anxiety, depression, insomnia, and more. Cerebral's great for its convenience and privacy. You can have visits with your therapist online when you're at home. They also offer comprehensive care, which means that your doctor and therapist are communicating with each other to give you long-term treatment. Believe it or not, this doesn't usually happen in traditional settings. But best of all, Cerebral makes mental health affordable. You can start with or without insurance, and therapy with Cerebral can cost 3 times less than traditional therapy services. They offer a consistent flat rate with an affordable price. It's also very easy to start a plan. You download the app from the App Store or Google Play and answer a few questions about your symptoms. Then Cerebral finds the therapist that's right for you. From there, you can choose from 3 care options. It's like having a full mental health team on call. If you would like to take the next step in working on your mental health, click the link in the description to start the questionnaire and get connected with a provider right away. Your first month starts at only $30.
People think in terms of good and evil when really time is the true enemy of us all. Time kills everything.
Time obviously plays a crucial role in Doctor Strange, but I think that this missable scene provides us with the dense and beautiful meaning behind this movie. And all of this is told to us with visuals and sound, not much talking. No info dump or exposition, something that makes this scene feel even more unique and clever. Okay, so I could go on about this scene, but there are also so many other goodies in Doctor Strange. And one of my other favorite things about this movie are the astonishing visuals.
Who are you in this vast multiverse?
They are mesmerizing. Not just beautiful eye candy, there's creativity to all of it. The VFX have a crucial role. They serve the visual atmosphere. They are grand, enhancing the story without feeling overbearing. My heart still pounds every time the Ancient One sends Steven through the multiverse. What words can I use to explain the beauty that's on screen right now?
Perfection.
It's as if Space Odyssey and Inception took LSD and made a baby. A beautiful, hi, little baby. And the colors, oh the colors. This movie is filled with vibrant tones. This is hands down one of the most beautiful MCU movies ever made. And these visuals go hand in hand with the creative action scenes. Seriously, all of these action scenes are so unique and different. Each set piece has its own special rules and mechanics. The film takes a lot of inspiration from Inception and The Matrix. And of course, there's the time reverse battle that did Tenet before Nolan. Yes, Nolan and the Wachowskis did it better, but that's a really high bar. But these ever-changing environments and rules aren't just there to copy other films. They're always connected directly to the action on screen. They are unique and iconic and unlike anything else in the MCU. I also love the magic system, how it's explained, and the mechanics of it all. It also looks freaking amazing. I love the fire effect on the spells and the portals. You can't just wave your hands and shout silly words.
Expelliarmus!
this takes skill, practice, and understanding. Even the exposition works here because it gives us a mostly logical explanation on how magic works. Now usually, I don't need explanations for my magic systems, but our main character is a man of science, a surgeon, so you need a more technical approach to this.
How did you get to reattach severed nerves and put a human spine back together, bone by bone?
Study and practice, years of it.
Also, the cast is stellar, especially Benedict Cumberbatch. He does not get enough credit for his role. He totally nails the personality of Doctor Strange. But most fans will praise these things, but the themes that are under the surface get much less recognition, like the powerful origin story. On the surface, Strange's origins feel familiar, but not if you look closer. Tony Stark also started out as an a-hole, but he was a very likable a-hole, and he began his redemption arc as soon as he came out of the cave. Strange is not meant to be a likable a-hole. No, he's an overbearing, arrogant, know-it-all, selfish control freak.
Oh, you think you see through me, do you? Well, you don't.
Just look at this scene, where Strange can't even embrace this woman, a loved one of the man whose life he just saved. He can't show her empathy because, at some point, he stopped seeing his patients as people. They became trophies. Achievements to his perfect record as the world's best neurosurgeon. That's the only way he can justify turning away patients that he considers to be lost causes.
I have a 68-year-old female with an advanced brainstem glioma.
Yeah, you want me to screw up my perfect record? Definitely not.
They're a risk. If he can't save them, then that means he's failed, and Strange cannot fail.
You want to go back to the delusion that you can control anything, even death, which no one can control. Not even the great Dr. Stephen Strange.
This is why he's obsessed with winning and throwing these victories in everyone's faces all the time. When Stephen is injured, we understand why losing his hands is such a devastating blow. But it's more than desperation, it's a loss of purpose. And the whole thing is presented in a very realistic way. The injury isn't some miraculous accident that gives Stephen powers. It's grounded and gruesome, which makes it so much more powerful and relatable. How many of us spend our entire lives searching for purpose? How many of us actually managed to find it? Strange had a purpose. He was the best at what he did. He was fulfilled in his own selfish way. Without his hands, he has no purpose. And without purpose, life becomes an empty existence. And because Strange is a control freak, he falls into chronic depression. He begins to self-destruct and hurts the people he loves.
Life without my work
Is still life. This isn't the end. There are other things that can give your life meaning.
Like what? Like you?
And side note, the arguments between Stephen and Christine felt like some of the most real couple fights in the MCU. It was ugly, but it's a good reflection of how bad things get between people when they deal with depression and pain. And that makes Strange's story different from most other heroes, because how many MCU heroes actually dealt with depression? Stephen Strange is a junkie, and he's hooked on control. Even when he's learning about the mystic arts, he can't let go of control. He must win, so he's terrified of failing and embracing his flaws. So he's incapable of taking a true risk, even if it means he could gain the power to fix his hands.
You cannot beat a river into submission. You have to surrender to its current and use its power as your own.
Well, I control it by surrendering control? That doesn't make any sense.
It's only after being forced to take the risk and fight for his survival that Stephen can begin to change. Now, some critics say that Strange learned magic too fast, but he's a self-made man who achieved his greatness with dedication and a lot of hard work. So, once he was able to overcome his mental barriers, learning magic became like second nature. But Strange doesn't become a hero after learning magic. He's at Carmartage only for himself, only to fix his hands. That's why he breaks the rules and doesn't care about the consequences when he uses dangerous spells in the Time Stone. In his mind, it's still all about him. He has no interest in becoming a hero, and most of his heroics in the movie are just thrust upon him. Stephen's entire arc culminates in one perfect moment.
Arrogance and fear still keep you from learning the simplest and most significant lesson of all.
Which is?
It's not about you.
It's not about him. It's about the people he saved, could have saved, will save. As the most skillful neurosurgeon, Stephen could have done so much good, saved so many people, changed the world even, but his obsessive personality prevented him from being a truly great man or a great doctor. And as a master of the mystic arts, he can make a purely selfless choice, amend his past, and save all of reality. And what I love most about this arc is that the movie takes its time getting to this point. Strange needed to first face and accept his flaws. He had to understand what prevented him from changing. Only then was he able to find his new purpose. But understanding is one thing. Actually making the choice is what allows people to truly change. Now, he could use his newfound abilities to fix his hands and go back to his previous life, leaving behind all the magic and hero stuff. The old Strange would have left in a heartbeat.
So I could have my hands back again. My old life.
Or he can embrace his change. Understand that he can become something new. A man reborn, free to choose a new purpose.
Or to serve something greater than himself.
And he chooses to give up control and believe in a cause greater than himself. He chooses to help the world as the healer that he was meant to be. Not as a surgeon, but as the Sorcerer Supreme.
You said that losing my hands didn't have to be the end, that it could be a beginning.
Also, can we talk about how beautiful this scene is? Not just visually, but the words that are said.
But look at me, stretching one moment out into 1,000, just so that I can watch the snow.
This scene encompasses the film's main theme, time. Also, I just love the final showdown when Strange comes to bargain with Dormammu.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
This is one of the few MCU fights where the hero wins by outsmarting his enemy. No punching, no magic hammers or cosmic fists, just his brain power. It's refreshing, it's creative, and it's so smart. And this is who Strange is. He's a neurosurgeon, and this is cosmic scale surgery. I love that Marvel did this instead of trying to make this just another epic CGI battle. Strange knows that he can't defeat Dormammu with brute force, so he finds a clever solution, using his brilliance and the tools at his disposal. He understands how the Time Stone works. He figures out Dormammu's weakness, so he finds a way to outsmart the villain with surgical precision. It's pure problem solving and requires self-sacrifice.
You and me, trapped in this moment, endlessly.
We'll spend eternity dying.
Yes, but everyone on Earth will live.
This climax is the culmination of everything Strange has gone through and his newfound understanding of himself. Strange is willing to die over and over again because it's the only way to keep his patients alive, to save the world from Dormammu. It's not about him or his pain, and it's certainly not about winning. It's about the people he's saving.
You will never win.
But I could lose. Again. And again.
Now let's talk about Caecilius and see if he was really such a terrible villain after all. Now, he's not the best villain, but he's far from terrible. Mads Mikkelsen's performance really saves this character. Caecilius calls time the enemy of all life. And the only way to escape the control of time is Dormammu's dark dimension, a reality outside of time. There's more to Caecilius if you look closely enough. His motivations might not be that fleshed out, but I think that the minimalistic exposition works. When Caecilius explains his motivations, I think you mostly get it, if you really listen and watch Mads Mikkelsen's eyes.
For well beyond time, because time is what enslaves us. Time is an insult. Death is an insult.
That makeup and the glossy eyes do the trick, but couple it with this.
When he first came to us, he lost everyone he ever loved. He was a grieving, broken man searching for answers in the mystic arts.
And I think we get everything we need to know about Caecilius. He lost everything, everyone. That's why he's trying to control time, attempting to create a world outside of time, a place where he won't lose anything anymore. It's sad and relatable. While a fully realized villain is always better, I think that this time this approach works. And while I don't think that letting a being from another dimension consume Earth is the best plan in the world, I still think that Caecilius really makes some interesting points about life and time. And some of it might hit harder after the Eternals, like this line.
In the end, our sun burns out, our universe grows cold and perishes.
Also, I like that Caecilius breaks bad because he discovers the truth about the Ancient One, that she draws power from the Dark Dimension. It makes sense because it's what ends up turning Mordo as well. They both believed in the Ancient One, but because they didn't have anything else, they became dependent on their leader, almost like joining a cult.
So you joined a cult?
No, I didn't. No, not exactly. It's not a cult.
Well, that's what a cultist would say.
Oh, no.
The revelation about the Ancient One makes them see her as a hypocrite, and it breaks them all over again.
I've hated drawing power from the dark dimension. But as you well know, sometimes one must break the rules in order to serve the greater good.
And that's another thing that I love. There's no simple good versus evil here. The movie raises some strong questions about existence, and when superhero movies do that, it always gets a thumbs up from me. Caecilius also parallels Stephen Strange. When the Ancient One kicks Stephen out, she does it because she sees the potential for Strange to become another Caecilius. They both lost so much they came to her broken with no purpose, with barely any life left in them. Both have similar worldviews, as you can see in these two scenes.
We are made of matter and nothing more. You're just another tiny, momentary speck within an indifferent universe.
What about the people you killed? Tiny, momentary specks within an indifferent universe.
Strange's reaction to Caecilius' words say it all. He realizes that there was a time when he might have shared Caecilius' perspective. The show What If actually showed a world where Strange lets his pain overcome him, corrupt him, turn him into the same zealot that Caecilius had become. But when he sees his past reflected in Caecilius' words, he understands that he has changed. He's no longer buried by his own pain and selfishness. So while Caecilius doesn't shine as a great villain, his role in Strange's development is crucial. In the end, the best antagonist is someone whose existence helps the protagonist to change and evolve, and Caecilius does this by serving as a warped mirror image.
Stop.
Also, look, the Cloak of Levitation was brilliant. They gave an inanimate object a personality.
You're an inanimate f***ing object!
So yeah, I really like the movie. Doctor Strange is beautiful. It might not be the best MCU movie, but it's unique and strange. It tries to do something different, and for the most part, it really works. And that's why we love it.
Set me free! No. I've come to bargain.
But how do you feel about Doctor Strange? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.